thank you very much for having me. My name is Bayan Teisho, and I'm the Chief Business Officer at CONTINUUS Pharmaceuticals. We're a spin-out of the Novartis MIT Center for Continuous Manufacturing. That was a joint research endeavor between Novartis and MIT, approximately $85 million, really to change the way small molecule drugs are manufactured. Right now, they're made in with an outdated process called batch manufacturing. And a highlight of this joint venture was that we were able to take a 200-day batch process, which is not unusual for pharmaceuticals, and cut it down to just 2 days with other advantages in costs, quality, footprint, and environmental impact. So just a much better way of manufacturing small molecule drugs, and we are looking to commercialize that, bring it to the rest of the market. So that in a nutshell is what we do at CONTINUUS Pharmaceuticals.
Bayan, it's so nice to see you again. I mean, I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. I see you whenever there's like progresses on LinkedIn, which of course LinkedIn keeps us all alert of when someone is advancing in their companies, et cetera. So we're going to dive into this, especially, I mean, right now, because everyone is focusing on vaccinations and everyone's focusing on life sciences. Like, life sciences are finally getting the attention at the forefront that it's never gotten before. But before that, I want to know, who are you? Like, where did you come from? Like, I mean, how did you evolve to where you are right now?
Well, thank you. So it's been a long, but I would say fun journey. In college, ironically, I was a chemical engineer, so kind of come back to the field where I first started. But in the interim, I went to medical school. I did a few years of residency in urology. That's with the U. And it really was a privilege, honor to treat patients. But I ultimately decided that this was not really what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I ended up, after some residency, going to New York and working at a small life sciences investment firm called Acton Biomed. And shortly after that, I went to MIT, where I was a part of the Leaders for Global Operations program, or LGO, formerly known as the LFM, or Leaders for Manufacturing. And it was really a great experience. I got to learn a lot about lean and various advanced business management principles that, quite frankly, would have been very useful during my clinical days in treating patients. But it was a very good education. I learned a lot. And after MIT, I joined a consulting firm that deals more with healthcare systems. It was called the Chartis Group. It was really exciting. I was there when Obamacare passed, and we really helped a lot of hospitals and health systems adjust how they treat patients accordingly. However, before I left MIT, I started working with a gentleman by the name of Salvatore Mascia, the CEO of our company, on a continuous manufacturing. And during that time, when I was a student, there was this large joint venture that I mentioned between Novartis and MIT. And a lot of us really were very surprised at the progress that was made and the benefits that this, what we call ICM, or Integrated Continuous Manufacturing, offers. And so he was one of the leaders in that effort. And we met at a venture capital private equity dinner, of all things. We were just sitting next to each other, and that's just the kind of magic that happens at MIT sometimes. And we ended up talking. We bonded very well, and I helped him develop some of the business plans. And even throughout my days at Chartis, I was very busy, because on the weekends and on the late nights, I would spend trying to work on our business model and strategy for CONTINUUS Pharmaceuticals. And fast forward 2 years, we had some investors, and Sal really needed me to come in full time. And so that was I would say, a very bittersweet moment, because I loved the work that I was doing at Chartis. It was very emotional when I left. But I felt that what we had at CONTINUUS was so groundbreaking and so transformative, and would really have such an impact on the pharmaceutical manufacturing world that I needed to do this. So ultimately, did a lot of work in the life sciences, from clinical to investment to healthcare practice, and now going back to the manufacturing. And so that's really, I would say, the trip. And I've been doing this for the past, I believe, 7 or 8 years. So it's been a while, and we made some progress. It's exciting. Fortunately, we have what I think is critical to any small venture is we have a fantastic team and fantastic leadership. Sal, when I met him, I realized that he was not only a very smart person, also a very conscientious person. So the mission at Continuous has always been one of how we can better or improve the pharmaceutical industry. It's never been about how much profit we can make or anything like that. It's really been about transformative change.
You answered so many different things in my head, but I have to rewind all the way back. Where are you from, and why life sciences? I mean, you could have gone any different route. I mean, clearly you're a very intelligent man. You could have gone any single route. Why did you choose this industry? It's long. I mean, it's not like you go in. It's not like tech where it's like I come up with an app, it's done. It's like you get funding, you're gone. There's a very, very long lead time when it comes to pharmaceuticals. Why would you want to go this route? And is it because someone in your family was in it, or is it someone that introduced you to this? Like, what was your path to this point?
Well, the pharmaceutical component really came when I was at MIT. I guess a little bit before that at Acton Biomed, but the entrance into life science really stemmed from I had a lot of uncles, actually in Brazil of all places, where they were physicians. And what I saw at an early age is the engagement between patients and physicians, and how much care there was, but also the impact that my uncles were having on their patients. And so from a very early age, that was something that I wanted to do. Actually, when I was in high school, it was something that was encouraged to me by my teachers. They said, listen, I think you would be a great physician, something to look into. Why I chose chemical engineering, I thought it was a challenge. You could go a number of routes to go pre-med. So again, it's kind of ironic that I ended up working at a chemical engineering heavy company ultimately. So it started off in that end toward the life sciences. And even when I got to MIT, I thought that I was going to revert back to healthcare systems. Hence, that's why I joined the Chartist group. And especially at MIT, seeing how there's a lot of work in lean and a lot of Deming's principles being applied across different industries, I thought that that's where I would really make my mark. I would say that going into pharmaceuticals, it was just this opportunity really where I saw this technology and I saw how currently the pharmaceuticals are being manufactured, and I said, it's got to change. Then the more and more I looked into how things are currently done, the more and more I really believe that what we have can not only impact the industry as a whole, but when you think about the United States and where we stand and some of our vulnerabilities with some critical drugs that unfortunately go into shortage, I think there's an opportunity really to leverage our technology, and so to improve access to life-saving drugs to all Americans. So I think that it was always an interest in the life sciences, but it started in healthcare delivery and kind of morphed its way into the pharmaceuticals. And I guess it also does help. I have a wife. My wife, she is also in the life sciences, and so we'll see what our son ends up doing. We think he's more going to be going to law just based on how he talks, but we'll see about that.
Thinking about your son, but also your teachers. You're thinking about where's he going to go, but what did your teachers see in you? I mean, what was it that you did say? Like, what was it that you were expressing, showing that they're like, you know what, you need to go to life science? Because most teachers aren't looking at a young person saying like, oh, you know what, you're that person I want to see as a doctor one day. So what was it that brought that to their attention where they were watching you more and more, and then they were like pushing you towards that career?
I think that There was definitely, I would say, I enjoyed the sciences and all the mathematics and the physical sciences, for example. So there definitely was that leaning toward those subjects. I wouldn't say I was a great in my writing at the time, although I feel like I've done a lot of scientific writing, but certainly English was and those sorts of classes were not my forte. But I think that there was that combined with just maybe how I was in class, trying to help other folks, and that's why I think that they thought that the being a physician would be aligned with maybe my personality. I was very fortunate. I would say that I had a rough patch in junior high school. Then in high school, I kind of got a little bit more focused. And the teachers that I had, I can't speak enough about how inspiring they can be and really have an impact on your life and career. And to this day, I still keep in contact with several of my teachers. I had several of them at my graduation for medical school for my wedding. And so, they've definitely been, I would say, people who've impacted my life.
I have to say, I mean, I'm going to agree with you. I mean, I started my career as a teacher. I have interns, I have my clients. I mean, teaching for me is like, I feel like everyone has to go through teaching one part of their lifetime, because you see how hard it is to find that student that really understands you, gravitates towards you, and really changes their life. And so to know that these teachers have been throughout it, I mean, like, I love it. I love hearing that so much. When you were in life sciences, so you're actually practicing, and you're with these patients, you are seeing, I mean, I'll bring the example of, before the pandemic, I was supposed to be in Ghana, and just knowing I had to get a slew of different shots before I was supposed to go. And there was one shot that, and right now I can't remember it, but I had it like 10 years ago, but you're supposed to get a booster, and they're like, oh no, we haven't there's like a shortage on this drug. And you just mentioned it, like, there's a shortage on this drug, so you don't need it, you'll be fine. And I'm like, wait a second, I needed to go. I had it 10 years ago. By everything that I've read, I should have a booster, and I'm not getting it. So now you're working with patients every single day. There are meds that are, one, there's no longer, and it's not being manufactured, or two, the insurance doesn't cover it, so you have to go generic. And the generic, there's something wrong with the generic. It's not affecting the patient the right way. You could have stayed in life sciences. You saw these different things, and probably a lot more. What was that pain point for you that you said, enough is enough, and I have to convert to going into the chemicals to help make this world better?
Yeah, I think that it's exactly what you said. Just seeing how the tail is sort of wagging the dog in this situation, how things are upside down. So I'll give you some information. A report that I read several years ago. I think it was published in the New England Journal of Medicine, and something like they surveyed over 200 oncologists, and over 80% of them within the previous 6 months had to change the way they prescribe chemotherapy because of a drug shortage. And think about it, those are cancer patients not receiving the optimal regimen of drugs. And so when you hear about these things, it really, I would say, underscores the importance of more robust manufacturing supply. And so I think that that's really at the heart of what we're doing, which is ensuring or advancing the state of manufacturing so that some of that can be brought back to the U.S. to ensure these more stable supply chains, as well as globally as well. So I think that it's an important mission, and one that if there was a silver lining to this COVID-19, I hate to call it that since there's just been so much tragedy, but it really has highlighted our overdependence on a very fragile supply chain of pharmaceuticals. That we're talking with a company where from start to finish, 2 years to produce, and in that during that production period, there's ample opportunity for quality infractions, and certainly it's not a very responsive one if there are changes in demand. So, we think that ultimately it's got to change, and that's one thing that has been highlighted with this coronavirus. So hopefully we'll get over this current pandemic, prepare ourselves, and hopefully avoid, or we won't have another one, but if it does come, we'll be better prepared with manufacturing systems that could really, in a short amount of time, start producing critical drugs. But yeah, I think that all these unfortunate deficiencies in our current system really have prompted our interest in and the mission of our company.
What has the pandemic done for you? I mean, like March 15-ish. So December, January, people are getting sick. People are like, God, this is like it's so early it's so early, or a continuance of the flu. People are like getting sicker and sicker. It's getting a little bit more intense. Wait a second, this is no longer the flu. And then March, the world is like literally like 2020. Hello. And so now we're realizing this is bigger than the flu. This is like a lot more damaging. The past 4.5 months has really changed our lives like we've never seen before in this lifetime for so many, including the individuals that are at 100 years old, and they're like, yes, we were born during the last pandemic, but they were born. They didn't experience it. They've heard stories. What did that do for you? Because you and your team, and I don't know how big your team is right now, but you and your team, you're moving along, you're getting things done, and this happens. What does that do for every single thing you planned, and how have you pivoted during that time?
Yeah, it's been challenging, really, for us. From working remotely to canceling company social function, which serve a really important practice of maintaining this culture for a small company. That's one of the things that we think is really important, is making sure that on a day-to-day everyone's happy, and part of that is the social component of that, and that certainly got put on hold. Now we're putting up plexiglass barriers, so it's changing a lot. And from a personal, from our company, fortunately, our individual, our team members have been fortunate thus far, but I would say that unfortunately we've had some extended family that have been affected very sadly by this virus. So it did hit us pretty hard. One second.
When you're saying to me that it affected the families, how did it affect the company in regards of the growth? So and you just said, like, you are dealing with individuals that the company components of doing things together, keeping them happy. How are they able to do their jobs knowing that there's family issues? So now you're working from home. You're not being able to see your team. You're not able to collaborate like you used to. And now it's hitting home. Like literally and figuratively, the virus is hitting home. How are you able to deal with that as a founder? How are you able to keep them in a positive light? But also, how are you able to grow your company? I mean, how have you pivoted during that time?
Yeah, so one thing from the very beginning with Sal, I mentioned that he's a very conscientious leader, CEO, is that we've always said family first, and so we've always maintained this policy that folks have to take care of themselves, and that comes before work. With that said, I think a lot of people at our company understand our mission, and so even through these hard times and through the different restrictions that we put on to maintain people safe, people have really been working really hard, because they understand also that what we have can be a solution, or it really should be part of that solution moving forward. So the company has really, the team members have been champs about that, and really continue to progress. We've had, just in terms of our work, some issues or some slowdowns with various companies, just because companies have had to reprioritize their efforts, and so that's been a little challenging for us. With that said, we're talking with the U.S. government and various agencies right now, and so we're hopeful that we can be part of a solution, a long-lasting solution. And so, and we've had a number of other opportunities come to fruition despite these difficult times. So I think that there's no doubt that our company took a little bit of a hit. The PPP certainly did help, and just the resilience and I would say most importantly, just been our team members who've really stuck it through and encouraged each other, and of course in a safe way. We all feel responsible for the safety and health of our fellow team members. So I think that through it all, we've probably done fairly well, better than expected. You read about some of the sad stories about businesses closing down. We've been fortunate enough. Hopefully, they'll be able to rebound in the future, and maybe it'll be because we can contribute to the recovery.
What has happened during this time that you would have never thought that you could accomplish? Meaning that you had it in your 5-year plan. This is what we're needing to do, and all of a sudden you have this abundance of time. So what has been added to your company that you really thought I wasn't going to see this, or we weren't able to do it, or we didn't have the time to do it, and now you're like, oh my God, this is great. We have created something that, whatever it is. And mind you, you don't have to go into detail, but have you used this time wisely to create or add something that you just didn't have the time?
For our company, I'm not sure. It's a little bit difficult. I would say that one thing that we've been able to do is become very effective through remote working remotely. And so I think that as another silver lining, as an aptitude for maybe how things may evolve in the future. I'm more on the business side, so I don't necessarily need to be in the office to work in the laboratory or do some of the technical work. I like to be here because I love to be with my colleagues, but down the road, as we start growing, I think that that's going to be important to be able to work remotely effectively with other team members. So yeah, I would say that that's definitely one aspect that we've grown as a company, the ability to work in that way. Also, I would say that just generally, I would say we're much better prepared for future, like the flu season, for example. I think we're becoming a lot more aware of our hygiene practices. So I think that that'll be good moving forward.
It's funny that you say that, because in the past February, people, if they were sick, they were just so like, I have to go to work, I have to go to work, I have to go to work. And now, because they were just so conscious, like, I can't work remotely. And now because of this, if you're sick, stay home. It's okay now, stay home. Because now we're experiencing, it's a big deal if you're ill, because you're not helping anyone just because you're fearful of your superior. You were in the medical field, you were with patients, you were seeing them, you were talking to them, you have family members in it, you decide to go the business route. What would you say to someone that, like, because everyone is now home and they're thinking, maybe that's the way that I was living before is not what I want, what was cracked up for me, and maybe it's time to start my own business. What was that moment for you that it was a time? And also, because it's not just like, one aspect is, yes, the whole entire concept of the chemicals, the pharmaceuticals, et cetera, that curiosity of bigger plan. But you just said it. I'm more on the business side. You didn't go to business. You didn't sign up for this at the beginning. What would you say to someone about your path and what, especially if they're in the life sciences, that you want to now start the business and you're going to be spending a lot more time on the business side of it? What would you say are the reasons that you love it? And what are the absolute, like, oh my God, this is like so painful. Why am I doing it?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll try to answer all the points of your question. The one thing I would say that maybe this is a little bit different, but I do think it's important. And unfortunately, a lot of my colleagues in the clinical sciences end up keep on going through it, right? So you've done residency training, and then you're a fellow or you're in private practice, and you just kind of keep doing it because you've invested so much money, and even if you're not happy doing it, you continue to do it. And so, and I know a lot of people, a lot of my friends and former colleagues, who I think would have been better served saying, okay, I realize I invested a lot, but this is not what I really want to do. This is not what makes me happy in life. And so I think that some sort of reflection is important. With that said, I have nothing but fond memories of my clinical days. And as I mentioned, it really was an honor and a lot of fun to treat patients, listen to their stories. And if someone were to ask me if I would recommend going into clinical medicine, I would absolutely encourage them. It was really fun. It just wasn't for me, but and I know a lot of people who are really fulfilled as clinicians. And like I said, I look back on those days with fond memories. In terms of going into entrepreneurship, it's difficult. You're going to think that you've got the next sliced bread, and someone else is going to say, are going to think otherwise, and it's going to be difficult. And so, what was really helpful in my case is that I found something that I was really passionate about, something that I really thought would change the world, and continue to do so. And that just really pushes you when you have those bad days where you feel that you're swimming upstream, and so there's that part of it. There's also, I would say, being able to pivot and understand what your customer is saying and what other people are saying, because as a young entrepreneur, one thing you have to really understand is what you know and what you don't know. And when you don't know something, you have to try to figure that out and understand that sometimes you're wrong, which is another great thing. When I met Sal, I really felt that there was this willingness to learn and understand, or learn from other people, because usually entrepreneurs are starting off at a younger age, and so they haven't been around the block, and so they may not know certain things that someone with a little bit more experience may know, or they may not know something more technical that someone who's in college or much younger may know. So you really have to, I would say, have the conviction of what you're doing, but flexible to take in information from whatever source. It may not necessarily seem like an authority of some sort, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's good information there. If someone walks in t-shirt and jeans, they can be a wealth of information, more than someone who's suited up. So
I love that you say that, because I try to explain to people so often where don't just look at what you're seeing on the forefront, because there's so much knowledge, and there's always that individual that is a sponge. I think it's like being international, learning to speak the language here. I have absorbed a lot. I'm dyslexic, so I go over the top because I want to learn so much more. And not just like marketing is my world, but I want to learn a little bit about everyone, because I want to be able to have a conversation with you, and I want to be able to have a conversation with you where we're both learning from one another. And I think that people are so quick to shut down someone that's wearing the t-shirt and the jeans, assuming, well, that's not what the typical doctor looks like, or that's not a typical scientist looks like. So I think that, I love that you just said that, because it really, in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, you never know who you're talking to, because everyone brings so much, not just a little bit, but so much to the table. And in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, you know what you know, but you don't know all these other things that will keep your business going.
Right.
To be able to be able to know that and absorb it, and you're like, okay, take a step back from what I'm used to in the typical traditional world, and know that I am doing something so great, but I need the support and the help of other people that I don't know those knowledges. You're hearing it in the news. Everyone's hearing in the news. They're so overwhelmed. Vaccination, not vaccination. It's going to be ready this year. It's not going to be ready this year. In your opinion, with all this information that's being said about the vaccination for COVID, anyone that's listening to you right now, how do we listen to this, not get overwhelmed, not get scared, and have hope?
Yeah, so I think one thing to note is that there are thousands of people in the pharmaceutical industry. Unfortunately, sometimes there's a bad rep in terms of some of the pricing, and certainly I wouldn't. I'm not defending any pricing strategies that these companies have, but what I'd like to talk about instead are those R&D engines that they have, and thousands of people who work really, really hard. And I've seen, how passionate they are. It's, for those scientists, it's not about the money, it's not about the price. It's really about how to find a cure for a disease. A lot of them have family members, friends who are affected by the diseases that they themselves are trying to cure. I've watched videos of at the end of a failed clinical trial, the scientists crying, and so you have thousands of people who are very vested in the development of vaccines and other therapeutics to combat not only this pandemic but other diseases. And I would just say that it's a worthwhile cause, and we're working very hard. We're just manufacturers, so we hope to support them through more efficient manufacturing and increasing access. But there are so many really smart people out there that spend very late nights just trying to work on these tough problems. And if for the young ones, who may be watching or listening, it really is a fulfilling job to know that what you're doing it could save lives. So maybe this would inspire someone to enter into the life sciences. It's a tough industry, but a lot of people like challenges. I hope, and I did certainly. So yeah, I guess that's what I would say, is that we're folks are trying really hard. Hopefully, something will come out. I would also say that there's the solutions that pharmaceutical and biotech companies can provide, but there's also common sense activities and behaviors that we can adopt while we're waiting for that solution that could really curb the spread of this disease and of COVID-19 and other ones. And so it's I would say everyone's an active participant in what's going on. So to be mindful and act accordingly. That doesn't mean that you can't go for a walk, but when you go for a walk, take whatever precautions are appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely didn't want to focus on the prices. We see these movies, we see this like the CEOs of these major companies that are like definitely gouging for like for EpiPens or things like that. We've like seen those like Netflix remakes of those situations. We have seen. I personally, being Haitian, I have doctors, engineers, and lawyers in my family, and I have a lot of them that talk about talking to a patient, and saying like, your insurance doesn't cover this medicine. It is what it is, which is horrifying. And you just said you enjoyed talking to those patients and hearing from. I have friends that have worked at Biogen, have worked at Vertex, and they spend so much time with those families that they're doing the testing, and when it fails, it's devastating. It's not even just heartbreaking, it's not just sad, it's devastating, because you spent so much time with these families and you've given them hope, and it breaks their hearts. I'm more so wondering for that average person. They're watching the news, they're overwhelmed, they're reading the papers. The media, and I'm a former media person. I love being in the media, but they're overwhelmed because I get up every single day and I just want to believe something is going to happen that's going to be on the positive side. So being a scientist, being an individual that's in that world, what is that moment of hope that you give that average person? I'm not sick, I'm taking precautions, I'm just trying to do my best to keep my family safe, keep myself safe. What parts do I take in, and what parts do I'm like, okay, enough is enough, in your opinion?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of information out there, and a lot of it is, I would say, mixed up with some of the political back and forth, and that's unfortunate. That it's not something where there could just be some information that readers could look at and know that it's just reported as the way it is, and maybe isn't being used by one party or the other to further their gain, political gain. And it's really difficult because you read about so many conflicting stories. I think the best thing is also to talk with your physicians. Ask them what's going on, and they should be abreast of what of the latest developments. Sometimes it's difficult if you don't have a background in the life sciences to be able to read for example, the New England Journal or JAMA or some of the more common or larger healthcare journals, and so and that's difficult. And sometimes on the web you have watered down versions, but a lot of that is editorialized. And so,
what do you mean I can't get it from WebMD? What are you talking about?
Well, WebMD is actually not bad. I think I've seen it. I've used it in the past, but I'm not sure how much they would have about the developments of these vaccines. A lot of times I use MD just as a information on how to treat certain diseases, and there's a lot of good information on some of those sites. So I think that consulting with your physician and staying as much informed as possible. There is stuff on the internet, but with that, I would say take things with a little bit of a grain of salt. And if there was any question, then again, I would say consult a physician, your physician, and he or she will be able to direct you. Hopefully, if they don't know the correct answer. But this is definitely something, unfortunately, where I'm not sure that there is a foundational knowledge that is resolute or absolute. I think people are learning a little bit more every day about this. So keeping informed would be good. But I just hope that we will have a much better understanding and a solution in the near future. But until then, yes, absolutely.
Definitely. Just wanted to ask the question because I know I didn't get it. How many people do you have on your team?
So we have, I believe, 20 people on our team right now. So it's a fairly small team, but we've been able to be very lean, and we have external partnerships where we need extra capabilities. And it's a small team, but I could say very confidently that each one of the team members that we have was the correct decision. We've been very fortunate in getting the right people. I think kind of going back to that previous question about entrepreneurship, as entrepreneurs build their team, I think the idea is very important, but having the right team members is equally important. Folks who will speak their opinion but also collaborate. And so, I think the best 20 folks that we could possibly think of.
I have to say that I say this over and over and over again to a lot of people that I work with and work for us, and when they hire us, it's like hire slow, fire fast, molasses slow to find the right people. And also, you never want to hire people that are carbon copy of you, because you just said it, where it goes, individuals that will be able to sit there and have that discussion with you and not be afraid to speak their voices. I think that's like a very beneficial to any single company that's out there. Who is your ultimate customer? Like, who is the individual that you want to partner with the most that would literally bring your company to the next level or help your company grow where we can provide X, Y, Z for you? So who's that ultimate customer?
Well, we're looking to build out a generics business. We believe that with our technology, we could start manufacturing some of these drugs by ourselves, and in that way, really cut out a lot of the other stakeholders within this supply chain, so we could go directly to hospitals and pharmacies and deliver high quality U.S. Manufacturing the U.S. Drugs to them with a reliable supply. So I would say ultimately patients, but usually patients get their pharmaceutical or their drugs from the pharmacies and hospitals. So I would say probably those entities, and we're already talking with a lot of them. They've had a number of issues in the past, from these unfortunate drug shortages to these price gouging tactics, right? That a lot of generic companies use, unfortunately. And so we hope to be maybe a leveling force in changing this paradigm of manufacturing. So I would say that those would be the folks that we would want to reach out to. Right now, we're talking a lot with U.S. government agencies, because we want to be part of that strategic solution to ensure that Americans are safe during this pandemic and future ones. But yeah.
Second to last question that I have. I love that you just said that, for the reason that it makes it very clear, because I do know many people that are older, baby boomers and above, that are taking that drive once a month or once a quarter to go to Canada, and they're getting their medicine. A lot of people are no longer ordering it from overseas, because you get the placebos and you're like, you know what, at the end of the day, I'm getting sicker and then I'm going to have to go to my doctor. So you being around and you being able to work with the government to combat that is very, very beneficial, because a lot of people are like, you know what, I need these medicines. Or even where I know many individuals that are older, and I'm sure you've heard of it, they're on the donut. And so when they hit that cycle of, oh, my medicine and my insurance will not hit and will not pay for this anymore, they go 3 months without taking their medicine. And that's detrimental to so many people. So to know that you're able to create this, like you're creating a value proposition for the government and for the people to get their medicine. It's not at that price point, but it's like high quality, win. So if technically not a question, but it was just like a statement where I've heard it, I've seen it, being in the media, being in the government. I've watched it in so many different ways, reading about it. And it's like, I think it's absolutely fantastic that more and more people need to hear that you're here, what you're doing. It's a small group, but it's a mighty group. And so I love that you're doing this. So yay. So my last question. So if you had a personal and professional ask of anyone that is watching you right now, what would be your personal and professional ask? Because I think that more and more people don't understand how hard you're working, but there's always an ask for a small business, for an entrepreneurial mind, for an innovator. So what would that be?
I think that one of the things that we're really looking to do is help other companies transform the way they manufacture drugs, because beyond us producing our own generics, we also think that other companies should really try to adopt more advanced methods. It's a way of saving money, and hopefully in saving money, there could be a potential reduction in costs, although I realize that sometimes doesn't work that way. But certainly there would be an improvement in quality, which ultimately will benefit patients. So one of the things that we always try to do is educate people as much as possible on the benefits of adopting these new technologies, the improvement in quality, efficiency, etc. Unfortunately, one of the big challenges is that there is this this culture that's already been embedded in the pharmaceutical industry of how they've manufactured in the past, and it's deeply rooted. And so the ask that I would put out there would be to have that vision of and think beyond of what we've done and more about the future of what we can do, thinking more in terms of the long term as opposed to the short term gains. And so that's what I would really say. It's when we talk with companies, a lot of times it's with folks who've been doing batch manufacturing for 30, 40, 50 years. And so we recognize that it's difficult for them to step out of those shoes and try to look at something, approach this manufacturing in a totally different way. But sometimes that's needed, right? And so our hope through discussions like these and other opportunities to educate folks is that we could see through those challenges, those of mobilizing a completely new paradigm in manufacturing, because ultimately that's where we need to be. Everyone benefits from a more efficient and better quality system. And with pharmaceuticals, not to downplay other industries, but with pharmaceuticals in specifically, sometimes there are these narrow therapeutic windows that you really need to make sure that the drug that you're giving to someone is accurate. There's also unfortunate cases where there are impurities that could be very harmful, and so we really have to be careful with and rigorous in our methods. And so, yeah, I would say that please think about think about the long term and the change that or the place that we want to be maybe 10, 15 years from
now. No, and what's your personal ask?
Yes, just from a personal standpoint, especially living here in the U.S., that people continue to be safe during this pandemic. Just from a personal standpoint, because you read about these rising numbers, and you just hope that we could do better in terms of containing the current one. And just from from my life experience and my professional experience, is as young folks start thinking or think about how they want to pursue their careers, what they want to do, is think really hard about what you want to do and what fulfills you, and don't be afraid to stop what you're doing and pursue something that you're really passionate about. I feel like my job is somewhat easy because I get to talk about something that I believe very strongly in. That's not to say that there's not work that I do during the day, but certainly when I'm out there pitching or talking with other companies, it's very easy to do because it's really something that I believe in. And so.
Well, the good thing about that is, this is a great opportunity for people to realize maybe this is the time to pivot, which is this, again, you're thinking about it, but you're afraid to. And so now people are thinking about that, but also you're passionate about it and you can hear it. When you're working, you're talking about your job, you're like, it's kind of like Bueller, status quo, boring. But when the second you get excited about what you do, why you do it, and who you can help, who you're helping, it's clear and everyone can hear it and people want to gravitate towards you. So I gravitate towards you. I love what you do. I think that if I had many, many more lives, life sciences definitely, I'm fascinated. Whenever something's in the news, I automatically call the relatives and I want to hear in detail, and they respond by, you could have gone into it. I'm like, I could have, but I'm marketing and I help you tell your story. So we all have our places, but I do appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. But wait, I have one last small question. How was it working from home with your wife and your child? How did you guys do?
It was fantastic. Really enjoyed it. I got to spend so much time with our little boy, and now that daycare is opening up, it's like, again, one of those bittersweet moments because on the one hand, definitely work will improve in terms of being more efficient, but then I get to see him limited hours. So another silver lining has been being able to take him out during these days and spend more time with him. So yeah, that has been a real pleasure. Really, really enjoyed it. But I think that now that daycare has opened up and things are hopefully starting to normalize a little bit, we'll revert. But it definitely now I feel that there's so many. Our relationship has gotten much better. Our shall we say? And we have a lot of activities that still need to be done, and so I think the weekends are going to get even better now.
Oh my God, I love it. That's the best way to end this. This is great. Bayan, thank you so much for your time. Oh, this was just like so wonderful, and I learned so much. So yay for you, what you're doing, yay for your team, and just yay for you spending quality time with your family.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.